welcome to the final seminar for the semester and possibly for the year. And you all know Sonam. So Sonam will talk on Buddhist Epistemology, a critical analysis of the epistemic efficiency of the sensory organs.
Basically what I'm going to do is read the paper, so if you get bored, just get up and do something. Right?
Never boring,
so this basically the paper that I'm presenting here is part of a larger project that I'm involved. Basically, I'm trying to get a book written on Buddhist epistemology, but not epistemology that is generally well known in Buddhist philosophical circles. It's kind of trying to be a bit more controversial. Generally, the understanding is, if you're a Buddhist epistemologist, you have to be foundationalist. And the whole thesis that I'm trying to get across is that actually you have to be anti-foundationalist or non-foundationalist if you really want to drive epistemology that is coherent. Okay? So that's my plan. And basically my presentation structure is going to follow this. So I'll just give you a quick preview of the topics that I'm going to deal with. First, introduction, brief introduction, then definition, and then basically 3 key arguments and the conclusion. So that's how I'm going to present the paper. But before I start talking about anything else, let me introduce you these 2 key terms, well, at least that is relevant to this project, and that is foundationalism and intrinsic nature. Because this word, foundationalism, and particularly intrinsic nature, is word that I will be using consistently throughout. And that's why it's so important that I like to present it earlier, in fact, or bring the meaning across. By the term foundationalism, I mean to denote an epistemological position according to which some linguistic or cognitive faculties are taken to be intrinsic, meaning self-warranting, or to stand as the foundation for all other knowledge. So that's epistemological foundationalism. And also it denotes ontological position according to which certain entities are taken to be intrinsic, self-nature, and stand as the foundation for all other ontological structures, independent of any interpretive conventions. So that's basically what I mean by foundationalism. That's what I mean by intrinsic nature. Intrinsic nature meaning kind of a reality that stands on its own independent of our interpretive mechanism. So these are 2 key terminologies actually that are key to understanding or the paper that I'm presenting. Okay. So basically when I say foundationalism or foundationalist, I mean referring to these particular schools. Most of the Indian Hindu philosophical schools, as well as Buddhist philosophers, accept Prasangika Madhyamika, which I will argue that actually they are non-foundationalist all the way through. Okay? So, introduction. The dominant view in the current Buddhist epistemology debate is that there is one theory of perception in Indian Buddhism, one that exclusively belongs to the foundationalist system. The assumption in the claim, therefore, is that Buddhist epistemology must necessarily endorse either theory of perception championed by Buddhist foundationalists or theory of perception championed by Hindu or Brahmanical foundationalists. This view, if it is taken seriously, and I believe people do take it seriously, has 2 major problematic consequences. And the first one is to extend, in fact, if one grants that the application of perception in the Prasangika Madhyamika, then to that extent one must endorse an epistemological foundationalism, ruling out any alternative account. And the second consequence is, If one rejects the foundational theory of perception in the Prasangika context, then to that extent one must hold the Prasangika to be radical epistemological skeptic who wholly rejects any theory of perception in the Madhyamaka. The former is problematic because it implies that Nagarjuna and Chandogiri are inconsistent, as it presupposes the synthesis of foundationalist epistemology and non-foundationalist ontology of the Prasangika. So far we have not seen conclusive evidence to support the claim that Prasangika blends the two irreconcilable propositions. The latter is also problematic because it reduces Prasangika into mere epistemological skeptics, and since it rules out the possibility of any alternative foundationalist account, anti-foundationalist account of perception. In this paper, I'll show that the reason why the two alternatives are not plausible options for a Prasangika Madhyamaka to hold. I'll instead propose an alternative theory of perception based on the Prasangika's anti-foundationalist ontology, and I'll show that Nagarjuna and Chandogiri works provide us sufficient evidence to defend a typical Prasangika account of perception which complements with its anti-foundationalist metaphysics. I'm not suggesting that we need to come up with a brand new epistemology. All I'm suggesting, however, is revisiting an appropriation of an account which has already been proposed in 15th century Tibet, which for some reasons was gravely misunderstood. Tsongkhapa proposes a thoroughgoing anti-foundationalist perceptual theory for the Prasangika. On his reading of the Prasangika, Nagarjuna and Chandogiri's epistemology does not entail an appropriation of a foundationalist perceptual theory, nor does it entail a Prasangika resigning to epistemological skepticism which refuses to make any claims regarding the nature of perceptual knowledge and its epistemic justification. The type of perceptual theory adopted by Tsongkhapa's work and his Gelugpa school, in my view, has two advantages. First, it does not require the blending of the two contradictory systems, therefore it resolves the first problem. Second, it affords Prasangika its own distinctive account of perception, thus resolves the second problem. The definition of reliable cognition. Chandogiri defines reliable cognition in 400 commentary to 400 verses simply as non-deceptive cognition in the world, or this one, non-deceptive consciousness in the world. As we see, the two key terms are employed in Chandogiri's definition, non-deceptive and world. The former is actually criteria of reliable cognition. By reliable cognition, Chandogiri means cognition which is non-deceptive. Cognition is non-deceptive when it epistemically warrants the reliability. The later term world contextualizes the definition. It qualifies non-deceptive character of cognition strictly within the epistemic bound of the world or of the worldly convention. The term world for Chandogiri means, as I've argued elsewhere, taken for granted as per the givens of the worldly convention, or as per the givens of uncritical epistemic conformity based on the ways in which things are presented to us through the naive sensory cognitions. So Chandogiri's usage of the phrase in the world is deliberate and is philosophically significant. It serves two coextensive purposes. First, it shows that the term non-deceptive in this context is exclusively an epistemic characterization of the cognition, and therefore B, it excludes the ontological sense of the term non-deceptivity. Without this qualification, to say that cognition is non-deceptive would no doubt militate and even undermine Chandogiri's core metaphysical stance, which is the thesis that everything, cognitions and objects included, are deceptive, empty, and empty of reality.